Welcome. My name is Tiffany Aline. I'm a real estate agent and interior design specialist in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia tri-state region. This is my first episode of my segment, Tiffany and Co., where I'm going to be interviewing various stakeholders in the real estate and design industry. Today's segment is actually going to feature millennials. So with that said, I have some really amazing guests with me. Today, thank you ladies for joining me. We have Sharon, who is a first-time home buyer in Maryland. Is recently married, and she works in internal communications. And then I have Tori here, who is a lovely single female in the DMV area, and she is a teacher as a profession and also recently purchased a home in Maryland. So without further ado, I want to dive into some of the questions I've had. I had some other millennials, which, just to be clear, the age group for millennials is if you were born in 1981 through 1996. So I know a lot of people get that confused as to what I'm up there. So I didn't think I was a millennial, but apparently I am. So without further ado, let's jump into the first question. So what was your driving motive behind purchasing a home in your 20s? And if you could, in just a couple of words, describe what the experience was like. Either of you can take a stab at that.
Go ahead, Karen. I guess for me, it's always like a dream to kind of, own your first home, and, 20s is fairly common. But I guess the main reason for me was my mom. She was like, you guys should buy. And she'd been saying it for like maybe 8-10 months. I don't know, a long time. Okay. And we actually wanted to buy maybe like a year or two from now. But due to the whole global pandemic happening and interest rates going lower, that kind of pushed us over the edge to start looking into home buying, because it just made certain homes more affordable just over the long time span.
Nice. Thank you.
So I feel similarly to Sharon. A lot of the same factors motivated me. I think buying a home was in my plans for, my late 20s and early 30s, but it did happen a bit sooner than I expected, just because of the home buying environment right now. As you mentioned, like low interest rates. And then I was just at a point in my living situation where I wanted to live on my own, and I was lucky enough to pursue this as an option as opposed to renting. So I suppose it was kind of a happy accident that it happened in 2020. I was thinking maybe 2021, but here we are, and I own a home.
That's awesome.
The renting is huge, Tori, because we pay the same amount for our mortgage as we did for rent, but you get like almost 3 times the amount of square footage. So
exactly. And not to mention, it's just an awesome investment, period, just to have. Okay, next question. How did you decide that the actual home that you bought was the quote unquote one for you?
Well, I looked at a couple of properties that were similar, all in the same area. I was looking for a 1-bedroom condominium, and that's what I ended up purchasing. And I ended up purchasing the first one that I saw, but I saw others to compare. And I think what set it sort of a step above the other properties was the view, the location. Like I have a gorgeous balcony,
Nice.
A lot of things that I just find more comfortable in a home, like a modern kitchen, hardwood floors, and it feels really spacious as well, even though it's a 1-bedroom. So I think convenience, and then it was just an attractive space. And so, yeah.
Right. I'm glad that you said a view, because I think with millennials, it's those type of things that maybe are a little bit different from the past, right? Like we tend to enjoy things like that, where, you have a really spectacular view. That's almost there's a premium on that for us, right? So that's really awesome. I know for me being in the interior design, everyone loves a fabulous kitchen. You can't go wrong there. Despite a lot of us millennials are not cookers, but I'm a cooker, but I know a lot of my friends who are like DoorDash all day. Or how about you, Sharon?
Um, we had a pretty bumpy ride with trying to find the home that we ended up in. I think we always ideally wanted a single family home, but they tend to be more in the expensive range.
Mm.
So we looked at a whole array of things like townhomes, condos, and honestly, we only looked at I think 3 single family homes that happened to be like right at the top of our budget.
Okay.
Um, so we did end up in a single family home.
Yes.
But what made us choose this home out of the other two was definitely location. I'm a big walker, so like I don't have a car. um, I Uber a lot, but like there's like a grocery store, PetSmart, like all this kind of restaurants like 15 minutes away, so I can get my exercise in.
Important too.
That was my number one thing was just kind of location.
Okay. Location, 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 right? What was the most challenging part of the process for you, and how did you navigate that?
Well, I would say because I wasn't planning on doing it this year, I wasn't familiar with all of the terms. It's almost like you have to learn a whole new vocabulary. And so I was just like thoroughly confused at the beginning.
Yeah,
Um,
I relate.
but that being said, I had an excellent realtor and she really checked in with me, clarified things. It's like she was able to predict what my questions would be. I'm sure, that just comes with experience and everything.
Right.
She was lovely. And so I think sometimes first time home buyers need more hand holding. And I'll be honest, I needed a bit more hand holding and a bit more explaining. And it was nice to have that support.
Nice. And I find that a lot with my clients. Now, are you one of those folks who likes, to maybe have a whiteboard and, write down all the different dates that you need? Or how did you organize that? Was it with a planner? Like, how did you because there's a lot of critical dates that you have to stay apart.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm an organized person, so I used my calendar. But because I didn't even know like how the process worked, I would say I didn't know what all the dates were. I was just taking it like step by step, like this is done. Now that we have to do that. Now we have to do that. And my realtor and I really worked in partnership to get those things done.
That's awesome. That sounds like you really trusted your realtor, and that's important. Sharon, how about you?
Um, I think my home buying experience in the beginning was like a night and day difference from the beginning towards the end.
Nice. That's how it should be.
I will say the most important thing is just having the right realtor that works in your best interest. Our first realtor like didn't negotiate contingency dates for us. Like we would ask and we'd be like, can you just present it to the seller and see if there's any wiggle room? Like he just refused to negotiate
Oh, no,
before we were signing our papers. And he didn't really do any comps, so like comparative reviews of just what homes were selling for. So when we got our appraisal back, it was $49,000 off from the seller's asking price.
That's very unusual.
So it was a very difficult experience in the beginning, and eventually we did switch realtors, and we ended up with a fabulous realtor, and everything went like 100% smoothly. It was like a night and day difference. And
so what would you say that you made sure this second time around to pay attention to when you were picking your agent?
Well, it ended up being somebody that I knew and actually had gone to high school with. So references really help. And I will say that the first realtor that we did have, we did look at reviews and everything, and they had great reviews online, probably like 100 or plus reviews, but we didn't know them. So, and I don't know, maybe it was just high time, busy season to right, more buyers and sellers, so they could have been swamped. I don't know. But having that realtor who really cares about you and, you as a person, your situation, really putting you up first is super important. And even when we were looking for a second realtor, we put our horrible case scenario as like an interview question. And we were like, what would you do in this situation?
Nice. I like that.
And they answered it like perfectly. So we knew.
That's actually I haven't heard that, but that's actually probably a really good technique when interviewing agents. One of our primarily duties is care and to act on your behalf. So, I apologize that you experienced that, but I'm so glad that you were able to find someone who.
Well, I mean, the thing that I learned throughout it was it may not be the most experience you have. I think it's more of just the most diverse experiences you've had in selling a home, and or buying a home, and that's what makes you a good realtor. That's what I learned.
Yes. Okay, I like that. Let's move on to one of the quintessential questions. How did you determine how much house you can afford? With things like, of course, us millennials are, dealing with it's no longer student loans on our backs and, things like that. And even, I know a lot of other millennials who are afraid to purchase a home because of this debt. So what would be your advice in terms of that? And yeah, what would be your advice in terms of student loans?
So I agree that it's definitely an intimidating thing to pursue home buying because you don't understand how it works until you've done it. And so I didn't know the answer to that question. And from what I understand, there's actually an equation that the realtor or the lender can use when you're first talking. And so we just plugged my numbers into that equation and we figured out the appropriate range for what I would be approved. So it was just very mathematical and straightforward.
Look at your debt income ratio, things like
exactly.
that.
Yeah, so that's how it worked for me.
Okay.
I think for us, it was just, this is how much we're paying into our rent right now. And we want something similar in terms of our mortgage.
Okay. And then also the question, are you concerned that by owning a home, you're tied to your geographical location? And I know for me, that was something that haunted me for a while because I think more than ever, we are constantly wanting to travel, wanting to experience different areas. I lived in Boston. I went to college in Boston, but then I lived there for a while. And then I'm like, I think I want to move a couple other places before I settle down. How would you explain kind of circumventing that? Like once you purchase a home, do you feel like you're locked down and now tied to this location, or is there a different way to think about it?
So that's a big mental hurdle that you have to make. And it's also a big misconception. That's something that I didn't have clear before I started exploring properties. I thought if I buy this place, I have to live there until it's paid off, which is completely wrong. You can also sell it before it's paid off. You can also rent it to other people. If you don't want to be a landlord, you can get a property management business to manage it for you. So you can be as hands-off as you'd like, really. But for me personally, I am living in it right now. This is my primary residence. But that was a big misconception that I had subscribed to before I learned the truth, that it's not so constrictive as you think it may be.
Right. Nice. I appreciate that advice. How about you, Sharon?
I guess for me personally, I've moved around a lot growing up. Like, I think the most I've ever been in one spot was 4 years. And before that, it may be like 2.5. So
that's awesome. I love traveling. So.
So for me, I think I'm kind of the opposite in the sense of I've always looked for a time to just kind of like settle down and put some roots. And but like Tori said, you don't have to just it's not as black or white as you really think. You could rent it out, you could sell your home. For me personally, with with the home, location was huge, right? So like if jobs change or whatever, do I know that I can get another job a city or a town over? Just really knowing your neighborhood, the biggest cities around you and what's available to you is really helpful in choosing where you decide to live.
Nice. And so now that you all are homeowners, how has that been thus far? What are the pleasures of it? I'm sure Tori's sitting seeing that amazing view. What have you really enjoyed about the process? And maybe what are some things that now may have come up that you're like, oh, wow, okay, so now this is an additional responsibility or so forth. So in other words, what
I understand the question.
Oh, okay. I thought you okay.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely right. I do love to have a coffee or a wine on my balcony. And so I am very happy in the space and everything. Of course, when you buy a home, you do an inspection. Ideally, you try to make sure that it's a wise investment. And I do believe that the place I bought is. There are little things that do pop up. I think if you talk to any homeowner, they would agree that once they move in, they find out some small things that they didn't know before. You may have to put in a little bit more money here and there, appliances, etc. But in general, I'm totally happy with my decision.
Nice. And Sharon?
Yeah, I think for me, I personally love the neighborhood. We've had there's like a house or two down where these neighbors have been like super welcoming and friendly, and they have two dogs, so that's been nice, like the kind of community feel to it. Like Tori mentioned about just a little bit of upkeeping. So, I mean, we try to keep like a budget going where we're putting a little aside every month just in case anything pops up. Because that's different from renting, right? So, but for the most part, it's manageable as long as you're, managing your budget.
Nice. Now I have to ask, just because at my core, I love interior design, and I'm looking at both of you all's backdrops, and they both are fabulous, completely different styles, but amazing. Like I love the themes. Now, I guess, what would you say, can you describe the feel that maybe you're going for in your place and how designing it has been for you? Do you have any tips in that area?
Sharon, to go first.
Well, currently I'm sitting in an egg chair.
Oh my God, it looks amazing. I love it. I want one.
It's actually meant for your patio, but I'm like, to heck with that. I want it inside the house.
Right. Creativity is the best. It looks so cozy. That also looks like a great place for like some coffee or some tea.
Definitely. I still have to, I just put like the greenery on it last weekend, but I need to put some stringed lights through it.
Nice. Was that your own idea, or did you see it on like a design show?
Just came up with it.
Nice. Nice.
Our style is definitely like yeah, but we go more for like a farmhouse, slightly boho mix in there style.
Okay, that's awesome.
Corbels, I don't know if you know what that is, but
no,
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't either. Explain. Explain.
Corbels are kind of like an architectural design element. It may go into corners of structures. Yeah, they're really cool. But,
no, but I think I know the word, but I couldn't place it. But I'm gonna look that up after this.
Okay, it's really meant for structural purposes, but a lot of people use it for home decor too.
Okay, nice. You learn something new every day. And what about you, Tori? I love your color scheme.
Oh, thank you. Well, I really like when a space is calming and minimalist and like clean. So I'm going for a lot of light, bright colors, not bright like hot pink or anything, but like,
Oh yeah,
you know,
that can be a lot.
yeah, like blues, greens, light colors,
Right.
tans.
The blue green color scheme tends to be very cool and calming colors.
Yeah, yeah.
And your
I
reds
just
are the
want to
warm.
relax, you
Right,
know,
right.
very serene environment. So that's what I'm going for.
Nice. Now, this is a down the road type of question, but since you both had such positive experiences, do you see yourself purchasing more property or investment properties, or potentially just expanding in that arena?
Sure. I mean, very long term, yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think that would be an excellent idea to have investment properties one day if I'm able. So
Great,
maybe
nice.
future.
And how about you, Sharon?
I think long term, yes. Right now, we're very happy.
You have enough on your plate. Totally get it. Totally get it.
We started searching in March and just moved in July. So
Oh, okay, yeah, so that's very recent. That's very recent. Well, thank you all, ladies. It's been fabulous. Your experiences and just what you have shared is very helpful to any millennials that are hoping to buy in the future. Right now, rates are awesome, as I'm sure you all know. Unfortunately, we are in this crisis, but there are different perks, I guess, that come out of it. So can we end with maybe you leaving us with just one valuable tip that you think um, is one of the more important pieces of information that a millennial should have on their home journey?
Yeah.
You can take some time to think about it if you need to.
Well, I would just say always ask if you have a question and always take notes because you might forget if you don't take notes. And maybe that's a very teacher thing to say.
Notes are good, believe me. As you get older, somehow the memory just doesn't work the way it used to.
Yeah. Yeah. So take some notes, especially if you're having phone calls with people as opposed to emails.
Okay.
for me, I would say I would just ask multiple people for different opinions or advice on just general home buying. Like you don't have to just go to your realtor, and you can also interview many realtors. I think that's really important for just having a really good home buying experience.
All right. Well, that concludes our segment of Tiffany and Co. for this episode. Thanks again to you ladies, and stay tuned for the upcoming episodes. Bye.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.